ready to start. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mesa City Council study session for September 21st. Mayor Giles is out of town and Councilmember Spilsbury is unable to attend. They are excused from this meeting. All other council members are present. Item number 1A is a presentation to receive an update on Mesa's peer support program. Presentation by Christine Garcia, Dale Krogan, and Amanda Freeman. Welcome.
And Vice Mayor, as they're coming and getting situated, just wanted to highlight for council, this was something, especially in light of, lessons learned during the pandemic and how we can translate that into also being a better employer. The council had talked to us previously about any support, that additional mental health resources and support that we can give for our employees. And we're fortunate that both our Mesa Fire and Medical Department and the Mesa Police Department have really robust peer support programs and have established that for over a decade to really help their officers and their firefighters who have dealt with traumatic experiences, but also just the difficulties at home and other things that all people experience. And so it really provided a great starting point for us as a city as we look to, what can we do then to expand that, to make sure that all employees are capable of having access to those type of resources. And so we've got a great team that's going to report out about the work that they've been doing using that foundation that public safety had started, but then expanding that out to what we can do on a citywide basis for all of our employees.
Good morning, Vice Mayor Heredia and council members. My name is Kristen Garcia. I am the manager of the Employee Health and Wellness Program here at the city. And you all know Dale Krogan, and I believe you know Amanda Freeman as well. Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Luna and council members, today we're really here. Yeah, Heredia, I apologize. We're here today really to show you what we've started developing, but this is really a multi-phase approach when it comes to the city peer support program. We've been doing these programs in fire department and police department for decades. Really, in the last 10 years, they've come to fruition, as Mr. Butler just showed us, just spoke to us about. But really what we want to talk about today is what does phase one look like? And what's available today to our employees and how we can start helping them out immediately, and then what this looks like moving forward.
And what we found putting this program together is that, stigma is one of the main reasons why people don't get help. And so what our goal is to really try to impact that stigma by making this program available to all the employees and their family members and make it easily accessible. I'm going to show you a really short video about that subject.
The only thing that ever gets anything done anywhere is people. And so how those people are, how they feel, their energy, their well-being really, really matters. My name's Tim Munden. I'm Chief Learning Officer here at Unilever. My job is all about human beings, about helping people be the very best they can be. When it comes to stigma, I think people feel that sometimes having challenges with your mental health is a sign of failure, or that it's something that doesn't happen to people like me. And what we have to do is to try and help us all to understand that it can happen to anyone. I started to realize a couple of years ago that things that I was experiencing myself might be signs of needing to get support. I'd experienced nightmares for quite a number of years following an episode early in my life which I almost died. But I didn't realize they were connected. And so I'd gone through life experiencing these nightmares and thinking that was just part of who I am. I was just a bit of a funny fella in that way. I was responding disproportionately to situations, particularly at work, and it would trigger a very strong emotional response. I started to realize that I'd been hearing about post-traumatic stress, and maybe that's what I was experiencing. The first stigma I put on myself was not really wanting to think that I could have a thing that needed treatment. And the second was being told to step out of work, which for me is, was a huge thing. I had to do the right thing for me because I want other people to do the right thing for them. And as someone responsible for managing well-being in a company, I also had to set an example. The support I got coming back to work was fantastic. I then was able to deal with the triggers in the workplace and am now in a really great place. It was a journey I had to go on, of acknowledging that I needed to get help, getting it, facing my fear of what people would think. I'm coming through that much stronger, much healthier, much happier.
So as Tim's story illustrated, 8 out of 10 workers say that stigma is really one of the things that prevents them from seeking help. So what we really wanted to do is set up a website that is confidential, that employees can access easily, and where our team will take a personal approach to really guide them through the resources that we have here at the city. As you all know, our resources are incredibly robust. They're the best I've ever heard of. And so we really want to make sure that employees are able to navigate through that system. And in doing so, we really feel that we are going to create a culture where it becomes the norm to ask for help. Just a couple of statistics. We all can probably imagine this very easily, but 1 in 5 Americans live with some kind of mental health condition. And when we look at how that translates into the City of Mesa employees, if just for the sake of math, we take 4,500 employees here, 1 in 5 is approximately 950 or so employees. And so when we look at the number of 1 in 20 who are actually living with a more serious disorder, like schizophrenia, bipolar, those types of disorders, those numbers translate into about 225 employees. That's not to say these conditions aren't managed for people, but when they're not diagnosed properly, they can really cause a lot of problems for people. And so when we look at the spouses associated with those numbers, those statistics now double. So it really is a big issue here at the city, something that we hope to address. And really wanted to also look at the fact that our family members here at the City of Mesa have children. And some of them are young adults, some of them are teenagers and even younger. And so oftentimes those children are struggling as well. Suicide rates are incredibly high in this country. And so we really have to make sure that we have the resources in place to be able to address all the needs of our employees and their families. And for supervisors, oftentimes they're trying to help employees that have some issues at work. Usually they're presenting with particular problems, difficulty concentrating, getting work done. The list kind of goes on and on. And so again, this program was created to also help supervisors, managers in those roles so that they can come in and actually be a manager and ask for help in navigating through these resources and then kind of step out and continue to be that manager. So we developed a QR code/logo that we plan on putting all over the city in restrooms, conference rooms, break rooms, anywhere that we can. So again, to help with that confidentiality, employees will be able to aim their phone, click, and it will immediately take them to our website. And we included in our website information, a lot of information, which we're going to show you just a quick sample of, because there's a lot of details there. But we do have a website, an email address, and a peer support phone number. And that phone number takes the employees or family members directly to a voicemail. And the 3 of us will be monitoring these emails and voicemails Monday through Sunday, and then working through a process to try to quickly get back. Our goal is to get back same day, at least with some kind of response, but 24 hours is really our max amount of time that we will get back to somebody. The City of Mesa medical plan is through Cigna. Jan Ashley has done a phenomenal job with our resources. And when we do these trainings, rolling them out to different departments, we're going to go in depth on what these resources are. But just a couple of things I wanted to mention to all of you. First and foremost, our mental health, our behavioral health benefits are completely free. We have unlimited counseling visits at no charge through Cigna, as long as they're in network. We also have access to inpatient and outpatient programs in network that, again, are completely free. There are no deductibles, there are no payments. So we've removed the barrier of a financial burden on anyone who needs treatment. And the other great thing about Cigna is their behavioral health team also has a customer support personal team that will get resources available, counselors and whatnot that are available that actually have openings, so that employees and their families don't have to go and try to navigate through the website by themselves. And again, that's part of our role, is to help employees find those resources as well.
And we really want to make sure as we roll out this first phase that everybody understands that these are the benefits that the city already provides. So as we're bringing these all together in one place that we can find and use easily, we want people to understand that really the credit today goes to the city and to the benefit programs, to what they're already doing for the employees. Phase 2 is going to bring in a lot more information and a lot more resources down the road. But as Kristen was just showing with our Cigna benefits, we also still have an EAP program. Most of us have probably either heard of or seen something about our EAP program. We want to make sure that people understand it is a valuable program. It provides 8 sessions for anybody in your household. One of the things we talk about is who's available to use the resources. Our Cigna program is fantastic, but you have to be a benefited employee or an employee who has signed up for our benefits. Our EAP program is useful for anybody who lives in the household, right? So if you brought somebody in during COVID that's now living with you, you have somebody who came home from school or even came home from the military, if they live in your household, they're available to use our EAP program. And our EAP program has worked with us for now almost 7 to 8 years and really tailored the program for us. So we see this as another huge benefit for employees.
So we all know Solari for the work that they've done in the police department and in the fire department, and we have MESA crisis teams. We are not talking about using our MESA crisis teams. Those crisis teams are only available to people who live in MESA, and not all of our employees live in MESA. So what we're talking about is using Solari the way the public would use it. So if someone is in a crisis, if they're in a mental health crisis in that moment, they can call 988 and they will immediately talk to a behavioral health technician. There are a variety of resources that are then connected to that, like 211 or the Veterans Line or a variety of other things. But if someone is having an emergency, a mental health emergency in that moment, they can call 988 and get help immediately.
And then, of course, our incredible Employee Health and Wellness Center. The wonderful, the beauty of this program at the Health and Wellness Center is the model is set up in a very unique way, where those providers can spend a lot of time with employees and their family members who are benefited. They can spend 30-minute appointments, 45-minute, even hour appointments. So they really look at take a holistic approach when it comes to healthcare. And they look at how, not only how physical health affects mental health, but how mental health affects their physical health. And so they are also going to be trained on this program, and so they can refer employees to this program so that we can, again, make sure that they're getting the proper care that they need. And in addition to that, obviously those medical providers know that they can refer out to psychiatrists and counselors and whatnot when needed.
We threw up this last slide to show some of our partners that as we're putting this together again, bringing in those resources, whether it be from Cigna, from Solari, from the Wellness Center. But we also want to recognize that police and fire are still going to play a big role in this. The value of those two teams when we talk about debriefings and defusings, incidents happening at work, which we've all seen take place in different departments, having that emergency response to be able to come out and not just care for the individual, but for that whole division in some form of, again, debriefing or defusing. So we still see them as big partners, but this will be a standalone program for the City of Mesa employees, including police and fire.
So we have an employee benefits fair on October 5th, and that is going to be our grand opening. We're going to be handing out the business cards that you have in front of you, the stickers that you have in front of you. We're encouraging people to put the stickers on their badge so that it's easy to find once they, if they need it or when they need it. And we'll be talking to as many employees as we can about what the program is and how it can help them.
Do you have any questions for us?
Questions? Mr. Freeman?
I didn't hear the word retirees. Is this for retirees as well?
It is for retirees as well. Both
Right.
city benefits today include retirees, our wellness center, and our insurance program. We've made sure that we want this to go out to our retirees as well so that they can reach out to us.
Okay, good, because when you talked about benefited wellness and participants in our city programs, I was thinking retirees, because they can access this. Some of them actually need it.
Absolutely. What we have found as well is that by working with some of these benefits, that they will extend, for instance, our EAP and some of our other outside resources will extend those benefits or those rates to our retirees as well.
Okay. No, I'm all in on this. I shared some personal experiences with Amanda a while back, and I utilized the program once early in my career and needed it. So I can see it benefiting others in our workforce because it's very well needed. So you just never know who needs it when they need it, and it needs to be available for them. So thank you for doing this.
Any other questions? Councilmember Duff?
Thank you very much for this program, and I know that a lot of these services exist, but bringing it to the forefront so that we're all more aware and accountable for our own mental health as well as the others and being of assistance. So regarding having the EAP or EAP, whatever you call it, so that program, you said anybody in the household. Do they have to be a dependent?
They
No.
do not.
Okay, so anybody living in your household it doesn't have to be some kind of dependent situation where
Correct.
they're, okay, all right, having no income or something. Okay, thank you.
And that's really helpful too, because not everyone is benefited through the city, so they can access that as well as retirees.
Mr. Butler?
Yeah, and Vice Mayor, Council, again, thank you all. This really, we wanted to bring this to this level and present to council because it had been a priority of the city council and comments in the past that, you know, they would really like to see us stand up that you all would like to see us stand up this program. So we appreciate that. It's smart as an employer that we're taking care of our workforce, a healthy workforce. It certainly leads to a more productive workforce, and it's also the right thing for us to do. Excuse me. So I'm really glad that we're able to offer these services, bring awareness to these services to our employees, and really do everything we can to promote a healthy environment for our employees. So thank you for your support for that.
Councilmember
I'll just echo, thank you for this, the report today, and I commend the city for prioritizing mental health and wellness, and the council, obviously, that this happened prior to me coming on board in January, and I think it's obviously very important, and this is a nice, robust program that I think is great to highlight and make sure employees feel comfortable using it, so thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. We're appreciative of the information and look forward to ensuring that our employees are well taken care of. It seems like this program is really going to make an impact for those that sometimes don't realize that they need this, all right? So, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 2B. Is it 2B or 1B? I think it's 1B. Is a presentation to receive an update on the city's advanced metering infrastructure project, also known as smart metering. We have a team here of Candace Canizaro, Scott Boucher, Chris Hasser, and Tim Meyer. So thank you, welcome.
Good morning, Vice Mayor and Council. I know it's been the long-awaited update on our smart metering project, and so we wanted to kind of give you an update today where we are, what our status is, and where we're going from here, and really the benefits we've already seen from this program going forward. You already did my introductions for me, so this is our panel here of experts. Any questions that you have, I'm sure we'll be able to answer those. We just wanted to give, since it has been a little while since we came and talked with you, and we do have some new faces, we wanted to give an overview of what this project is. So we always refer to it as smart metering. It's just easier for people to understand that. The actual, if you look at the industry's advanced metering infrastructure, so a lot of times you'll hear us say AMI. So when we say AMI, that's what we mean. Advanced metering infrastructure means it's not just the meters, right? It's a whole system. It's the meters, and we'll talk about endpoints and get into terminology, but it's the communication network. How do we communicate between those and the city? And then also the data management. We're going to be collecting a lot of data. Today we collect 1 data point per month per meter. will now be collecting vast amounts of data on the consumption of the utilities. So we need a data management system to do that as well. So when we talk about AMI, we're talking about the whole system as we go through this. To give you a little bit of all the different moving pieces, part of it is just to make sure that we have not just the meters, but it's also sensors that we can put on the system, and we do have one sensor in place that we'll talk about. But these are different types of things. It's a way to monitor the city's infrastructure and to report that back so we can get it in near real time for all of these. Some of them are in real time, if depending on what the urgency of a particular alarm is. It communicates through, we'll call them base stations here. They're called AMI hardware, but basically it's a radio wave it's communicating with and bringing it back to the city. It is two-way communication. We'll talk about that in a minute. We do receive the raw data. So when we talk about here the software that we had to install, you won't hear us talk about it after this meeting because you won't care about it. The head end is where we're collecting all of the raw data. So the raw data is coming into the city. We then have another software that sits on top of that, is really more of an analytics software. It's a little more user-friendly for our folks. Those are really ones that the customer service has access to, so they can go in and look at it and not be looking at raw data. So there's two software systems. And then all the different people that are involved. The goal is to actually get this data in the hands of our customers so that they can see their consumption on a daily basis, if they want to see it on a daily basis. We're not there yet, and we'll talk about that, but that's the ultimate goal. Right now, our folks can see it. They can see the reads that are coming in so far. And we're in the process of hiring our new data analysts that will be specific to this program and utilities in general, going through that. I won't go over this, but these are just all the different components of this project. So to say that this project is complex, I think is an understatement. It takes a lot. It takes more than just the faces that are sitting up here in front of you. It takes all of our departments, our IT area, and so forth to make this happen. Every single meter in the city that's owned by the city will be touched in this project. When we go out to do the water meters, we are not only just either replacing or retrofitting a water meter, but we're actually replacing the covers and where the water meter sits and cleaning that out. So every single, if you think about the vast size of the city of Mesa, we're going to be touching every single meter in the city of Mesa that's owned by the city. Some of the anticipated benefits that we're looking at is really, we kind of have a laundry list here, but the real big things we're looking at is data, right? It's all about data. The ability to see what our system is doing from the staff side, how efficient we are, where we can move things around, what our peaks are for demand on all of our commodities, but also from the customer side. How are they using? How can they be more conservative in their usage of their utilities? Do they have a leak? And we'll talk about that in a minute, things that we've already seen, so we can do leak detection. Sometimes we'll know things before the customer knows. How can we be proactive in that? We can do, part of the benefits are being able to communicate with that meter without actually having to drive a truck out. So today, if we do have to do a final read, because somebody's moving out, they need a final reads for their final bill, today we roll a truck to do that read. And we won't have to do that with a smart meter. We'll be able to ping that meter, get the read remotely, and not have to actually roll the truck out. So we had this project was a two-phase project. Initial deployment started about 2 years ago, but we are successful. We have completed it. The city has accepted the system. We accepted it on August 15th, which was a grand day because it was a hard work going through that. There were some delays due to supply chain issues with the meters, just difficulty in getting the meters themselves. That was the biggest thing that we had going through this. But of the project itself installed about 2,000 meters today. We do have a pressure sensor that we have installed onto the system as well, so that we can look at that. The software integrations with our billing system is complete, it's tested, and it is live. So we have been live, I think, Tim, for a month. Yes. Doing live bills on anyone who does have the smart meter today, have done live bills from those reads. We did a parallel testing to ensure that everything was good before we started those. We actually have more than the 2,000 meters, and I will say we actually have about 4,000 smart meters in the system today. 2,000 were part of this project. One of the reasons why we had to, one of our delays was electric meters. We were not able to get any electric meters, so we had to do all electric meters we could get, went into just operations, either new customers or repairs that had to be made and so forth, but that was an additional 2,000. So we have about 4,000 smart meters in the system today. Just the other 2 was part of our normal operations done with our electric crews. Some of the delays that we had was our software integration with the customer portal. So we are delayed on that. That was intended to be in phase 1 so that we could roll it out. We weren't able to accomplish that due to various reasons on the technology and the vendor side. We are working with them and we are scoping that out. So we can't give an estimated time that we'll be up and running with the portal at this point. But we will update you when we get to that point. We needed to update our CIS system before we were able to add the module for the smart metering or the AMI. And so we had to go through that first. That's been completed, and now we're working on the AMI module itself. Electric meters still are tough. They're our toughest meters to get our hands on. And so we still have some, so we gave the priority to new customers rather than placing out existing customers. Part of the initial deployment, we've already had some realized benefits. And I'd like Chris to talk about all the water we've saved so far.
Sure. Well, Vice Mayor, Council, you heard Candace mention the word data a few times. That's probably one of the most exciting things for us is just the data that we're going to get out of this. And this case study we have here on this slide it's actually a city property on Pepper. And the software, so the radio sends signals and the software has certain thresholds it looks for, and one is continuous water use. So if the water never stops going through the meter, that raises a red flag and says there's probably a leak on the property somewhere. So that was the case for here. And then that prompts us to deploy a technician, and they found a leak. Sure enough, on the property, irrigation that was about 4 gallons per minute. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 5,700 gallons every day, and that's 172,000 gallons every month. So as we talk about a normal or a median single-family household that uses 6,000 gallons a month, this is 172,000 gallons a month. So that leak may have persisted for weeks, like is typical. We find that a lot. Where someone gets a bill that's $1,000 and they say, I don't know how this happened, and maybe it's even another month later before it's determined, yeah, you had a leak in your irrigation system behind this tree, and that's money that they have to pay. Sometimes we work something out with them, maybe bill them at a lower tier, but this is not lost water. So this is water that actually goes through the meter, it's billed, and the customer has to pay for that. So to be able to, in almost real time, find a leak and notify the customer, like we did in this case, the customer was ourselves. So we were able to reach out to facilities and then get it taken care of, but that prevented 172,000 gallons of water loss in a month. And this wasn't our only case. So for water meters, we had not quite 700, and we actually had 3 cases. So we had 2 other private residences where the software did the same thing. It found the leak, and then we reached out to the customer, and they were able to get in contact with their landscaper, irrigation professional to come out, fix the leak, and then we could see that from our software right away that the leak had stopped. Under 700 meters, these 3 leaks, in terms of the water that was detected and saved, when you extrapolate that up to the 157,000 customers that we have, we expect, once we have full deployment of the system, to save 2 million gallons a year. So that's quite a bit of water. So that's probably one of the biggest benefits that we have. There's numerous others that Candace is describing, but from a water savings benefit, this is something we're pretty excited about.
Councilmember Freeman?
So Chris, 2 million gallon savings, how many acre feet of water is that per year?
Yeah, actually, let me back up. Councilmember Freeman, I gave you the wrong figures, 2 million gallons a day.
2 million gallons a day.
2 million gallons a day. And that's about 2,300 acre feet a year. So that's
significant savings.
4 golf courses. Well, 2 million gallons a day, that's 4 golf courses every day.
Wow.
A golf course uses about 500,000 gallons a day. So 2 million gallons a day, that would be the equivalent. What we can just find just through software would save the amount of water that 4 golf courses would use in a day.
And then you extrapolate that into the money savings part of it by having the smart meter
Right.
to recover that loss or stop the loss.
It's the money, but it's also found water. So that's 2,300 acre foot. We don't have to go and try to find somewhere in the future.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you.
So where do we go from here? Well, we've already kicked off our phase 2, which is our full citywide deployment. So that kicked off on August 22nd. We already have crews in the field doing our installs. We do have to do a staggered start date, though. So while we've kicked it off, we're not in full up and running production, again, because of the supply chain on the meters. And so we have been ordering the meters over the last year, slowly and kind of stockpiling them. We are using a contractor for the installation. Some of the installs are being done with our staff, but most of the installs and the retrofits are being done with a contractor. And so we need to make sure that we have the capacity to keep them working because they're hiring crews here locally. And so we need to keep them with a steady stream of demand. And so we've already started with our gas retrofits. And when we talk about retrofits, I should probably mention, we all recall when we were cable ready back in the days, right? And so some of the meters that we've been putting in place in these last few years are AMI ready or smart meter ready. The meter itself is your kind of a standard meter, and then there's an endpoint that goes on it. That's the radio. That's the one that's taking the reads, and then it's sending the reads. And so most of our gas are in the retrofit category because we have such a big, all these new customers in our Magma area and so forth, they're all, if you will, AMI ready. They just need to have that radio or head end added to them. So that part has already started today. We have enough of that supply to keep our contractor working. In November, we plan on starting our water retrofits and also our full exchanges. So when we have full exchange, that means we're taking out the old meter and replacing it with the new meter, putting those in. Electric meters, again, we're hoping to start those in January, February, early of 2024. We will, again, want to make sure that we have the capacity and the supply because they're going to be hiring installers specifically to electric. It's not one installer that's doing all 3, so they have to be certified in each one of those meters. So it is kind of a staggered start, but once we have the volume, we're anticipating the first quarter of 2024, we'll be up and running on all 3 commodities and all 3 meters, running those. We have base stations. We talked about the radio antennas, if you will, that are around the city. We currently have 6 already. That was part of the phase 1. We do have full citywide coverage. So those 6 do have full citywide coverage. The good part about that is we can be flexible on where our installation areas are because every area will hit an antenna somewhere. What we don't have is the redundancy. So another 14 base stations were part of the full build out. That'll be done over this next year, and then we'll have the redundancy. Every radio or every meter should hit at least 2 radios. That's part of our contract to make sure that we have full system-wide coverage, and that includes in our Magma area that we'll talk about. And then obviously in phase 2 is the customer portal. So that's our integration with our current product, which is Silver Blaze is the product we use for our current utility customer portal. And so that's integrating with the module related to smart metering. So just to give an overview, this is the same slide that we came to council with 2 years ago and really kind of showed the scope of this particular project. We were talking about just under 250,000 meters that we would be touching in the service areas. And just as a reminder, where our service areas are. So our electric area is just really in the downtown area. That's the area in the red. The gas area you can see is most of Mesa, but not all of the city. But then you can see that big, large area, and we call that our Magma area, down in the Santan kind of area. So that's where we're having a lot of the growth, right, is down in there. So again, the antennas we have today will cover this entire area for installation, but we just don't have the redundancy yet, and we'll get that. Communication is key. One council member does have smart meters right now.
I wonder who that would be.
So communication is key with our customers. So like any other time that we would be going to a customer's house or business and changing out, doing work in their area, we will be notifying them. So all communication is through both Spanish and English will be sent out. We will not be communicating to the whole city as we roll out the citywide deployment. We'll be communicating on an in-time basis. So as we're going to go to a particular neighborhood, they will get a postcard mailed to them 4 weeks, about a month before we'll be doing work in the neighborhood. The postcard has the information about smart metering, has a link to our frequently asked questions regarding that. On our FAQ page, we do have a picture of what our contractors look like, what their trucks look like, what their IDs look like. We want to make sure that they're comfortable, that they are, because they won't have City of Mesa necessarily. They might be our contractor. And so we want to make sure that people know that if there's folks in the neighborhood, that they're supposed to be there. And so that will go out. Once they've visited that and they've done the exchange, then they will get the, as Councilmember Duff is showing in the picture, the door hanger, right? The door hanger says that we were here, we did some work on that, just so that you know, in case you see anything or heard anything, that this is what happened. They do not need to be home when it happens. If they do need to be home, we have a few areas where we still have some things in backyards, not very many, but they're there. We also have some businesses that need that continuity, so we need to schedule with them to make sure that we don't interfere with their operations. So the utility crews, they know those, they're all marked in our system. Those would be called ahead and have appointments. But for the normal resident, the normal business, they're not gonna see a difference. They're just gonna get an updated meter and they'll get their door hanger that says it's been completed.
Candace, is there any disruption to the service when they're installing the metering?
No, I don't. I'm gonna look to these guys just to verify, but I do not believe there's that momentary disruption when you take it out and put it in.
It's momentary, it's very brief,
Okay.
just for the quick changeover. And the customer is notified, it's all on the door hanger, and that communication is there, so they understand. The idea is to minimize the amount of downtime, which is pretty minimal.
Okay.
And if there is something that we're not aware of at their location, when they get the postcard, there'll be the number that they can call in. And if there's a different situation that we need to be aware of that maybe we don't know about, then they can let us know and we can make an appointment.
All right.
I'd like to dial into the weeds. Excuse me. Is the physical meter, water meter removed and a new meter put in, Chris, or just some physical components removed and then
Sure.
replaced?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Freeman, it's both. So we do have some AMI compatible meters that are already in place from other manufacturers, and those can just be retrofitted with a radio on top, and now they're part of the smart meter system, but the vast majority will be new census meters.
And same for the gas meters?
Yes, that's the same with the gas meter. So some of them are compatible and it's just switching out as was described before. But then some of them, we have to remove the entire meter and put a new meter in. And so,
Electric meters are the exception. So electric meters are an all-in-one unit. So every time we go out to an electric meter, it will be removing the old electric meter and adding the new one because they're an integrated component. They're not a two-piece component.
Yeah.
and what Candace had described with new meters right now in the electric service area, we're trying to install smart meters as much as we can.
Sure.
Because you see some of the new developments that have come downtown, we're putting smart meters in all of those developments.
So will any of the residential or business owners incur any costs on their end for this installation or change out?
No. This is a city project. It's part of a normal operations and maintenance. It's part of upgrading our city-owned equipment, so there will not be anything on their bill. Now, with that caveat, they're not going to be charged for the meter. However, if they have leaks now that are being detected, if they have those types of things, they're going to be an improved meter. It's not going to be any different than if we were just changing out the meter anyway. And we've had customers in the past who their new meter, when a meter starts to fail, especially on the water meter, and I think Chris can say, when the meter starts to fail, it usually fails to the benefit of the customer, meaning they're not being charged for all of the water that they're using. And when they get a new meter, they're now being charged for all of the water that they're using. So we do see that sometimes when we switch out just a normal meter exchange. But there's no cost. This project does not have any cost to the particular user when we go out to their premises.
I'm sure as this program ramps up and gets going that some of us council members will get some emails about, satisfaction and unsatisfactory, change outs and having to pay more because you found a leak and this was degraded and needed to be improved. So, I'm just thinking ahead, on the construction side and the homeowner business side. There possibly could be some costs incurred on the homeowner or business side to repair a leak, like you're saying. I mean, that surely could happen.
Well, I should add, Councilmember Freeman, actually, so if we find a leak, it's going to benefit them financially
Sure.
because what happens today is the leak is out there in the backyard, and unless it's a really bad leak, sometimes it takes a while to even see it. But the meter is registering that high flow, and then they get that $1,000 bill where their normal bill is under $100. And then we come out and they say right away they think the meter's broken. And then we look and we check the meter, maybe do some diagnostics and find that, no, the meter's fine. And then it's maybe halfway through the next month when they finally see, oh, okay, there's the puddle in the back, and now they have another high bill. But this way, we're gonna be able to almost real time find a leak, notify them, and they can take corrective action and not even get that high bill. So for us, we're still getting paid, but I would rather not get paid and keep that resource, and then also for the customer's benefit, not have them have a high bill and go through that stress and anxiety.
Sure, no, agreed. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Goforth?
Have other valley cities done this, converted their entire systems?
Yeah, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Goforth, we're not early to the game.
Oh.
We're actually relatively late to the game.
Okay.
So SRP has already converted, City of Chandler's converted, Scottsdale's looking, I mean,
Okay.
it's the norm, I would say now.
Yeah.
It's not unusual, it's actually the norm to use the technology and the data to better refine your both your system and customer service.
How long do meters last? I mean, is this, the replacement of the meters for the smart meter take off how much time on a normal meter life cycle?
Well, so Councilmember Goforth, all the meters are different. So I'll speak to the water meters. Usually 15 years is about the norm. It might be less. So we've seen meters go beyond 20 years, no problem. But they do start to degrade in terms of the accuracy of the reading. But I think a general guess would be about, not a guess, more of it's field information would be about 15 years for a water meter. I don't know about electric and gas.
Yeah, it's similar with the gas meters in electric. So, it's gonna be dependent again on what is happening with the meter. Some might go earlier, some might last longer, but overall, I would say 15 years is probably a good number.
But an important consideration with your question is that this program actually will have a payback less than 15 years, so it will pay for itself in about a dozen years. Because of numerous things, like instead of 26 meter readers, we'll only have 3 or 4. So we're already working with all the meter readers to get them certified in ways and advance their skill set so that we can use them in other areas within the department. We have 50 vacancies, so we have a bad need of expertise and resources. And then all of those trucks that are driving dozens of miles every day, we won't be doing that. The accuracy, we're not gonna have meters out there that are not reading properly and underbilling, because the software will tell us that this meter is now falling off the curve and it's no longer accurate, so we can go replace it rather than have it underread for years. So with all of those factors and others, we're gonna have a payback. The savings every year that we'll pay this off in about 12 or 13 years.
That's a good point. I was kind of wondering about that, because obviously the infrastructure for the entire system is probably pretty significant, so a 12-year payback. Okay, great, thank you.
And really, and the major cost to this project are the meters themselves. Yes, we have a communication system and we have a software system, and there are costs to that. But when you look at the overall cost of this, it's the actual equipment and the installation of that. And that was something we would have been doing over the next, as they aged out. So it's accelerating some of the meter replacements that we would have done anyway. So it's accelerating them, but reaping the benefits of the more efficient system, doing that. And then also going forward, we'll have a better by meter, whether if a particular meter is starting to fail versus the whole neighborhood of meters. and so can replace the failing one rather than coming in and replacing the old neighborhood, the whole neighborhood, just because it aged out, if you will.
So is there much of a difference in hardware between a smart meter and a regular meter? I mean, is it pretty significant? Or not? No, okay.
No, it's just that you have to have the AMI compatible
Yeah.
meters, and so the ones that are out there that don't have the compatibility, we have to switch them out.
Yeah.
Where most of them we're retrofitting. So with that, as we go forward, we've always talked about this as a 3-year project once we got to the citywide rollout, and we're still holding that. It just took us a little longer to get to the 3-year start. So we did come to council in October of '21 is when you approved the contract for us to move forward. We had hoped that that would be only a year for phase 1, and obviously with our supply chain issues, we weren't able to do that. But we're here today, and so that's the success, is we're here today. But we're still holding to our 3-year, and we're holding our contractor, our vendor, to our 3 years as well. Everyone's on board that we will be done with our very last meter in the city of Mesa within 3 years. And so we've kicked off last month, and then we've started the 3-year clock, and we're going to make it happen. So that's where we're going from there. Again, we do have the frequently asked questions that will be on the postcard, so there'll be a link on the postcard as well as on the door hanger, so they can go out there and get their questions answered that way. There'll also be a phone number if they have a specific question that's not covered in our frequently asked questions, or if they just want to talk about it, or if there was a issue with that particular install that we need to know about for those. And then with that, the last slide is just not for us to review, but just that you know who it is that we're working with, who's in our community. So Census is the vendor that we have the contract with. They're the expert in this field. They have contracted with UPA, and that'll be the symbol that'll be on the trucks. They are installation contractor, so they'll be the ones out in the field, as well as some of our folks who will be doing some of the meters as well. And then the Harris Utilities / SmartWorks, that's all the software that we have implemented to do the data analytics and to interface with our billing system. So those are our partners in the field. With that, are there any other questions about the project?
Councilmember Duff?
Yeah, I do have a few questions. So once this is available for consumers or residents to view their usage, which should be in the 3rd phase, is that correct?
Well, it'll be in the 2nd phase.
Okay.
We just don't know when. So we don't want to
Okay.
make promises yet. We're doing scoping right now on the module.
All right. So would it be like in the Mesa Now app? Would we have an app that we could just go to, and then we could, like our utility bill, and just say, I want to see my
Yes,
electric,
it's in the
I want to see my
same,
water?
so Vice Mayor, Councilmember Duff, it is the same portal that you're going to today. So the same portal that our customers go into today to look at their utility bill or to pay it, that same portal that's our Silverblaze software that's creating that portal. So this is just another module from the customer's perspective. It might just be another page that's in there.
So the Mesa
So it'd
Now
be the
app
same.
would have that capability as well?
That is my understanding. The same
Okay.
way you're getting to it today is the way you'd get it to it when you just have more data. So if you were to go out there today and look at your data usage, you're only seeing one consumption point per month. And when we have the module up and running, you'll be able to go out. It will not be real time. We want to make sure that that's clear. It'll be next day.
Okay.
So when it comes to customer information, because we do want it to be clean data, right? We don't want to be pushing out raw data to our customers and then find out there was an error or a misstep in a radio. So it'll be next day when it comes to the customer portal. But our folks can see it live time, and alarms go live time. So that is the difference. So when we are able to get it set up, the goal is that a customer could put in an alarm. Like,
Okay.
I want to be notified when my usage goes up this amount, more than normal. So that way I'm getting notified that there's a leak in my yard before utilities is calling me to tell me there's a leak in my yard. So that would be the goal. And those alarms would be something that they could set. That's the goal, to put it out there. So it should all be the same entrance. It should be the same place you go today. It's just going to be more information and hopefully some interaction where you can set your own criteria. I call it similar to a bank. So if you do online banking and you can say, please notify me if there's a withdrawal over a certain dollar amount.
Right.
Very similar. That's what we're hoping, that's what our goal is for this, is let me know when I have a withdrawal from my water account, if you will, by this many gallons, type of a thing.
Great, great. Oh, I really appreciate the program because, especially when it comes to water and energy, it's, you guys have to manage it so well in order to have enough supply to serve our city. So it's not like 10 years ago where we took a lot for granted that, you know, these things, now we kind of have to micromanage it as a city, and as residents, of course, we have to be very conscious of our use, and of course, that's more sustainable and a cost savings to us as well. As far as are we using any infrastructure dollars or anything, federal dollars to pay for this installation citywide?
Vice Mayor and Councilmember Duff, we are not, but we are always on the lookout for grants, various infrastructure grants that we could apply for. We currently are not. We're currently using bond dollars for this project from the various sources, water, electric, and gas bonds.
Okay. And the other comment I'd like to make is a lot of our residents don't realize that that space between the street and their home is their responsibility. And that was water lines, sewer lines, and they can have leaks and they can break and it can be very costly. The city belongs to the National League of Cities. It's a national organization of cities and towns. And they do partner and have available some great rates with service line warranty. That's a partner name. It's by HomeServe. I use it on my property. I live in a very old house, and I'm always worried about my sewer and any infrastructure. And it's very low cost, and I have it on all my sewer and water. And I have used it. It's not going to take care of your landscape, things like that. This is major infrastructure type things, but it's zero deductible, low cost. I'm just putting it out there. So no one wants to be faced with a sudden thousands of dollar bill to repair water and sewer lines. So I just put that out there. And for people to know that unfortunately that is our responsibility to maintain that infrastructure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Duff. I think that it's a good thing to remind everybody that I think a lot of people think that when you turn it off at your house, that's what you're responsible for, is you have that turn off that's right next to your house when it comes to water. And a lot of people go out there and that's when they turn off their water when they're working on something in their house. But it's after the meter is what you're responsible for. So the homeowner is responsible all the way to the meter at the sidewalk. So from the meter on, it's the city, but from the meter to the house, and they forget about that, between the meter and that turn off that's next to your house. You're responsible for that whole line that goes through. That's not city property, that's private property.
Question on multifamily. Are most multifamily already equipped with smart metering, or are we also doing smart meters on apartments or, triplexes, duplexes, or?
Vice Mayor, that would be the same thing. They're just a
Same
different
thing.
size meter. It's a commercial meter rather than a residential meter, but it would be it's part of the same program. So this program is both residential and commercial,
Okay.
or non-residential.
And then as far as the look, in our downtown area, I'm assuming they get all the electric, gas, water meters, right? For major parts of the city, it's probably just gonna be the water meter, right? That we're exchanging because, for instance, District 3, SRP is the electric meter. Very few people, I think, have Southwest or gas there. Some do. So for sure you'll get a water meter if you live in the city of Mesa, right? And then the added electric and gas. That's wherever you live, you would get those, right? As far as a visualize, like who's getting what around the city.
Correct, Vice Mayor. This map kind of shows there are certain areas that would only receive a water meter, right? So that's
Sure.
everywhere, kind of that southeast Mesa area, and Councilmember Summers' district has a lot of area that we only own the water meter. The other ones are not serviced by the city of Mesa. If you have the overlap with the kind of gold checks there, then we'd also be doing your gas meter, right? So it'd be water and a gas. And if you happen to be downtown, you're trifecta, you get all three. So we'll be doing all of them for you. The goal is to have them as close as possible so that we're not coming back this year and then not getting to your other meter till the following year. So we are trying to move them as close as possible. I just don't foresee that we'll be able to get it into one billing cycle, that all of them would be changed out just because of our supply chain issues. And so we're going to be, as we're going to be starting out, we're going to try as much as we can because that also frees up our meter readers. So it's a combination of, so the question might be, where do we go next? Where's the plan and when are you getting to my house?
Sure.
Right? I'm sure that'll be a question that you will receive from your constituents. And right now I can't tell you when we're going to get to your house. So we are working on that. We're going to be starting in the downtown area. That's where we have the inventory that we've been stocking. And so just for logistics purposes, we're going to be starting kind of in this downtown area will be the first places we go. Remember, we're not doing electric meters until the 1st of next year. So even though you're in the downtown area, you have all 3 meters, we might get out to do your water and your gas, but your electric might be sometime next year. We'll be doing it as soon as possible. As soon as we can get a full meter reading route converted, then that's one less route we need to run, and we can put that person somewhere else in the department. So it'll be a combination of age of meters, right? Because we do have some that we want to focus on. Those are the ones we want to replace first. So it'll be a combination of age of meters and then trying to align our meter reading routes so that we can start to slowly take those routes offline.
And as far as if somebody needs to exchange their meter right now based on just if they're anywhere in the city, we're exchanging it with a smart meter.
With a smart meter, correct. That's why, even though we said we only did 2,000 meters as part of this project, we actually have 4,000 meters that are live out there right now because we are using smart meters anytime we do any type of a replacement or a new customer.
What's that?
As much as we can.
Yeah,
if we
what's
can
that
get it.
scale on a weekly basis or daily basis, or as far as exchanging meters
Well,
from
I could-
residents?
Vice Mayor Heredia, I could speak to the water side. Our annual budget for just normal life cycle replacement is about $1.1 to $1.2 million. So I think it's 400 to 4,500 meters per year is our annual replacement budget. So that gives you an idea of what we're normally replacing anyway.
Okay.
So again, this project will be an acceleration, right? Because now we're going to touch, of the 250,000 meters we identified, we've done 2,000 of those. So we have the rest of those to do in the next 3 years, and that's why we're using a contractor for the installation. They are being certified for our gas folks that they hired to do the gas installs were just certified. They're trained by our gas staff to make sure everybody is qualified, trained, that safety is a high priority for us. So safety and communication are the goals for us when it comes to going into the neighborhoods.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments? No? All right, well, thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you.
information. Great program. We'll move forward with item 2. Item 2 is to acknowledge receipt of board minutes. Ask for a motion and a second. Councilmember Freeman, Councilmember Duff, a second. Any, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 3 is current events and conferences attended. Council members, any events, meetings? No? Mr. Summers? You- Mr. Councilmember Duff?
Of course. Oh my gosh, don't talk.
Start it off.
All right. Yesterday, some of us attended the East Valley Partnership breakfast, and we talked about women leadership, and it was very inspirational. I want to thank East Valley Partnership for putting that on. It was at the Mesa Community College Performing Arts Center. Last night, right in our city plaza area, we had a downtown Mesa staff and stakeholders barbecue challenge. So some of our city employees are involved. Jeff McVeigh from Downtown Transformation was a judge. Chief Koss from Police Department was a judge. I was a judge. We had actually gone through a certification earlier in the year to become an official Kansas City Barbecue Society judge. So this was an exercise of our first competition.
Of you are from Kansas City?
How many of you are from Kansas City? I see 2 people in this room from Kansas City.
You know, it's not too late to get certified.
Sign us up.
Sounds
the reason,
tasty, yeah.
And the reason is because we will have a national barbecue competition here in downtown Mesa in November. So this was the warm-up
Okay.
for our skills. So we invited,
Do I feel like a duel coming on here?
well, we tried to
Sounds like it.
have a
Sounds
duel a little bit last night because we did invite Fire to compete, but they didn't show. I'm just saying.
So call out to Fire. Yeah.
But PD did show up, as well as there were some other city departments that participated, engineering, municipal courts, downtown transformation department. There's probably some others that I missed. But I want to mention, is Chris still here? The Water Resources Water Hogs, I always used to say water dogs because I fish. But anyway, Water Hogs won the for best chicken.
Oh, wow, okay.
All right, and there was about 10 teams of, doing the barbecue, and then about a dozen judges. And so the best ribs and pork was by Homie Smoking Barbecue. His wife, the guy who accepted the award, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, and his wife works for the city, and I have missed like what department she's from, but they won the pork and the rib competition and the overall because of the high points that they had. So don't worry, it was blind judging. So, and it was awesome trophies because even on the chicken award, on the top of the chicken trophy was a chicken. So check it out at Water Resources. So thank you to all the city departments and downtown businesses for participating, and Ting, a internet provider doing some installations in our city, sponsored the project, and look for the barbecue challenge, and I expect to see Councilmember Goldforth as one of our celebrity judges then. Thank you.
All right, any other items? No? Mr. Butler, can you share schedule of future meetings?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. It's tough to follow a barbecue contest, but tonight is the downtown Sunset Market from 4 to 8 p.m. at Main and McDonald's. So if you're downtown, please check this out with DMA and our local vendors with food and live music. So check that out this evening, starting at 4 o'clock. And you've seen a lot of us the last couple of weeks with back-to-back council meetings, so we'll give you a break for a week. You'll reconvene back here for study session next Thursday, and we will have a sustainability and transportation committee meeting following the study session next Thursday. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Summers, second. Councilmember Freeman. So thank you. Have a good morning.
And that's why it takes a vote to get out of here.
Yeah.